If you're interested in getting your replays analyzed, please read my pinned comment below. Thank you and enjoy the video. One thing you will notice about SSLs in general is that they play the game based on probability, which is, in my opinion, the best way to play this game. Here, many lower ranks would be tempted to jump off the wall and try and rip a shot on net, but the probability is really low since there's an opponent about to wade backboard. Also, your mate has no boost, and you know he's likely getting boost. If you shoot, you will just put him at a large distance between him and the ball. The best play here is to take a touch and play it slow with possession. Pretty insane flip into a double there. It was a really smart way to beat the last man. With SSLs, you see that they are typically well-rounded when it comes to mechanics. They are not one-sided, where they are only good at aerials and not ground mechanics. They have a good grasp of both, which is really important to ranking up. A 50 happens, and where is his nose pointing to? The ball. We mentioned this many times in champ videos where when a 50 is about to happen, the nose was pointing elsewhere. The correct play as shown here is to keep the nose pointing towards the ball during a 50. There will be some exceptions, but this is usually dependent on card positions. Question for the comments. Why does he opt to go for the soft touch as a shot here, instead of just smashing the ball with his nose? I'm interested to see what answers we get in the comments. After some time, I'll comment myself with my opinion on the matter. At the higher ranks, you will notice that they like to rotate Ballside quite a lot. This is because it keeps them in the play as much as possible. Yes, doing this makes you prone to more awkward situations, but at this rank, they have the mechanic to deal with a lot of those moments. This looks like a panic clear, but it makes sense. When the 50 happened, usually you'd expect a second man to come for the ball almost instantly at SSL. However, the second man, if you go back and look at the map, you'll see that the second man turns away from the 50 and doesn't face the ball. This is why he doesn't get to the ball in time and thus leads to our player panic clearing. Good positioning. This is so that if the opponent goes high, he can quickly go up the backboard, and if the opponent goes low, well, he's already on the ground, so it's easy to deal with. A bit surprised he goes for this since it's quite obvious he will read the bounce and clear to the corner. Or was it? I think at SSL, the gameplay is really high that I believe a lot of fakes happen. So here, I think he goes for this simply because the obvious move is to read and clear. So he thinks the defender won't do that, but fake the read and clear and take possession as it bounces back. The defender might do this fake if he expects our player to position to the left and get ready for the read and clear. So it's just mind games basically, but it didn't turn out as he hoped. Example. Defender POV. So our SSL was expecting this defender to do a move like this instead of the read clear, and as you can see, if he did that, he could have scored. At lower ranks, I would suggest rotating back using mid pads. This is simply because you might not know if your mate can comfortably control the ball up the wall. At SSL, he knows his mate is comfortable with doing that, which means he has enough time to get mid boost. I've seen champs and the likes challenge this ball. This isn't worth going for because of two reasons. Firstly, it's in the corner, which is the opponent's safe zone. And secondly, his mate isn't back yet, meaning if he challenges and doesn't win the ball, then it's an open net. So here it's best to fake challenge and wait for mate to get back. Good pads pathing. This is really good. Here, the SSL knows he can't win the ball, but he still makes himself useful. How? Well, he thinks to himself that if I can't win the ball, then I'll just bump the player out of the way so he can't follow up. That way, it'll leave more time and space for his mate to pick up the ball. Tries to fake the sidewall hit and instead plays it through mid, but the opponent reads it unfortunately, likely a risky play. Probably would like ball cam to stay on a bit longer just to see who would get mid boost. Just a nitpick. Always cheap. This situation is a little bit awkward as first man. The opponent has full control of the ball, and you should obviously try and make him uncomfortable. One straightforward way is to just aggro challenge and hope you win it, but that could be a bit scary since opponent has so much time on the ball to outplay your challenge. One other way, which I like to do, is to pre-jump medium height and hover. This tells the opponent that he can't try and aerial this ball and has to go low, but your mate will see you hovering early and push forward and challenge low. I'm not saying one is more correct than the other, just presenting different options. Example. Here, we immediately pre-jump aerial to cover anything high. If they stay grounded, we can still apply some pressure by boosting towards them. This, with your mate covering ground, should be effective in stopping the opponent. This recovery option is really smart. Many players will just float down into the ground after the pass. But here, this player backflips back onto the wall because that's the quickest way to get all four wheels onto some surface. This is good positioning because it's trying to cover multiple options. Here, if the opponent takes a reset shot into the far corner, this SSL player is in a decent position to save it. And if his mate goes up to challenge, he's close enough to pick up the ball in case it 50s. It's subtle, but really good. Excellent decision. Here, he recognizes that his mate is not back yet, so he decides to play it slow until his mate is back. I've seen many lower ranks will go up the wall here and try to challenge, and yes, it could work. But if they boom it past you, then it could be in an open net. And if it doesn't go in, your mate isn't back yet to deal with the situation. Good challenge. He recognizes that he's first man and that there's a possible pass option for the opponent, so he goes quick and aggressively challenges. As you guys know, I normally wouldn't suggest going all the way back for corner boost, but instead stay in the play and grab pads. However, this SSL player notices his mate lost a 50 just now and rolled past the ball, meaning his mate doesn't have clear possession. So going back for boost and playing defense is probably the best decision. A couple of things I want to point out. Firstly, take a look at the map. You'll see his mate rotates through mid pads and doesn't get boost because he recognizes his mate is under pressure. Secondly, I believe our player was a little hasty in the challenge here, simply because his mate hasn't positioned himself for such an early challenge. Our player needed to wait just a second later before challenging here to ensure his mate is back, but a fake challenge probably could have worked too. I'm not sure if he could have faked the aerial here and tried to play it low, I'm only suggesting this because I would assume that at SSL, many tend to pre-jump a ball that could be ground to air dribbled, so faking it and playing it low might be a viable alternative. Good car cam toggle to help with recovery. Did you notice that? He doesn't go and challenge directly the player on the ball. Instead, he recognizes that the opponent is about to hit the ball to the wall, and so he turns his nose towards the wall and gets ready to chase the ball. This is reading the play and reading the opponent's car behavior. Okay, going for boost here I think is a mistake, simply because it's not reachable and you slow down your pathing to the ball. There are two plays you could viably do here. It's either you decide to go for a straight demo or you follow the ball and play the ball. I think playing the ball is probably best because if you can get a good touch on the ball, your mate is ready to pick up the ball and has a good 1v1 chance against an opponent who is spawning from a demo. Example. So here we follow the path of the ball and we manage to get a good pop away from the opponent. Our mate can now pick up the ball and try and score. Really smart decision. We all know how many lower ranks would have gone for the opponent's corner boost as he landed, but instead, he noticed that his mate took a sharp touch turn into midfield and opts to go for a demo instead. He grabs pads and stays in the play, doesn't leave for boost. Challenging this ball with no boost is very risky. His best play is to probably fake challenge and then flip to mid boost and try and play defense. I understand why he decided to challenge this ball. He hoped that if he could get a decent 50, it would buy some time for his mate to get back. But like I said, it's too risky. Take a look at this positioning. It's reading of the game once again. He positions further forward in anticipation of his mate passing out to him. He knows he can position here for two reasons. Firstly, both opponents are right next to his mate, meaning he doesn't need to worry about anyone intercepting the pass. Secondly, many lower ranks would position back posts in case their mate gets dunked. This makes sense, but you'd be positioning for the worst case scenario and not for both scenarios. Here, our SSL knows that if his mate gets dunked, he's still in a decent position to get a save. And if the dunk flies straight into his net, then that's not on him. It's on his mate to keep an eye out for a potential dunk and cover it accordingly. Unfortunate with the ceiling pinch attempt. Here, normally many players would just come off the back wall and rotate through mid as their mate pushes up, which isn't bad. But at SSL, it's trying your best to make life difficult for the player on the ball. So here, he decides to chase the player who's about to receive the ball. His mate will notice this chase and back off to see if he can demo or something. And there you have it. He manages to dispossess the opponent and his mate can regain the ball. Not a bad try. Notices that mate is effectively in a bad position after that double tap attempt. So instead of going for corner boost when he landed, he gets himself back into the play as quickly as he can to support mate. This is important. Look at how close he is to his mate in his own corner. In the champ analysis video that we do, we notice players just sit in net when their mate has possession in the corner. But here, he's right next to his mate because he knows his mate won't get dunked, so he can cover a 50 and pick up the ball immediately. I'm curious to know what you guys would have done with this ball. The tempting part would be to just single jump and power shoot the ball on net, but the opponent on back wall is likely to save any shot. Or perhaps an aerial soft touch control into a shot might be possible. Example. In this example, I decided to take a soft touch since I'd expect my opponent to position backboard and then try and take a shot. Not saying this will definitely work, but it could be an option. Again, notice the ball side rotation is to make sure he can make things uncomfortable for the player on the ball and to keep himself in the play. Doesn't get sucked into looking at the ball. Here, he pays attention to the card movement of the opponent and can see that he's about to boom or do an aerial, and starts to turn away accordingly. And here are my final considerations for this gameplay. Number one is we notice that the SSL player stays in the play quite a lot and always supports his teammate. Another thing we notice is that they have great ground and aerial mechanics, really, really well rounded. And thirdly, is that there are some situations where we could potentially explore different options for optimal results, such as the soft touch into a shot instead of a straight aerial.